On your screen are the three photographs. I hope all of us are familiar with them. Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma, who stayed on board the Russian space station Salyut 7 in 1984. And then we have American women astronauts of Indian origin, late Kalpana Chawla and Sunita Williams, who got an opportunity to live in space modules or space stations to conduct experiments. Not only these have made us proud, but inspired several young minds to pursue their path in space sciences. Namaskar. Today I'll be taking you through the journey of the present space station, which is there in the space, that is the International Space Station ISS. Before we go ahead, I hope that you might be encountering several questions like what is a space station, why do we need it, how far from the earth should we have it, how do astronauts actually live in ISS. So with this background, we have the following learning objectives at the end of this session of 20-25 minutes today. I hope you'll be able to have an understanding of a space station, why do we need it, what is the history of ISS, and how can you actually spot the ISS standing from your location. And then the modularity of ISS, a brief overview of that. And one of the most interesting aspects, that is the concept of microgravity and life in ISS. And then I'll be touching upon some multitude of applications and finally the future of this mission. So before we learn about ISS, we should first know what is a space station. So space stations are large modules or laboratories in space where human beings can stay for an extended period of time and conduct experiments. So earlier space stations have been from Russia like Salyut series 1 to up to 7, then Almaz, Mir and American Skylab. Presently, the ninth human crewed station in space is the International Space Station, and we will have an understanding of this space station in today's session. So, what should be the orbital altitude of any space station? So, logically speaking, more is the distance of the space station from the Earth's surface, greater rocketry, greater thrust, greater expenses, greater difficulties are expected. So we would like the space station close to the surface of Earth. But as the space station comes closer to the surface of Earth, we know that Earth is surrounded by an atmospheric layer. And due to this atmospheric layer, there is an atmospheric drag which will affect the space station. So, roughly around 400 kilometers or so, this drag becomes minimal. So, we usually place the space stations at that altitude. In fact, the ISS orbits the Earth at around 420-kilometer altitude from the surface of Earth. In this figure here, if you can see my cursor, the inclination is shown. Inclination of the space station orbit is around 52 degrees. It's actually 51.64 degrees. And this is how this animation shows how it is revolving around the Earth's surface. Earth is rotating from west to east, and the space station moving very fast, actually at the speed of 7.66 kilometers per second. So this way it could complete one revolution around the earth in around 93 minutes. So it's around 92.68 minutes. And if you are sitting in the space station, then you will see that the sunrise and sunset happens around 16 times in a day. So the orbit, it orbits the earth over 16 times a day. So that's how it is. Now, let's have an idea of what is the dimension of International Space Station. So, if you see the size of space station, it is roughly close towards that of football ground. Okay, and it weighs very high, like 4 lakh more than 4 lakh kilograms, and it is the largest artificial object ever sent to the space by human beings, not as one module but in terms of different modules, so those gets assembled in the space later. So this is how you get a feel of the size and the weight of International Space Station. Now there is a very interesting activity. I hope that all of you would try at your own. You can spot the ISS at your location. So for that there is a website given here, spotthestation.nasa.gov. If you visit this website, there are few steps. I'll show you some snapshots of that. With those, following those steps, you can actually predict at what time and on what days and in which direction the ISS would be visible over or close to your location. So you, that day you go out and look up in the appropriate direction on those mentioned dates and times. So for your sake, I try to take some snapshots here. So here is spotthestation.nasa.gov. This is how the website looks like. So first thing is you first find out where your station is, where your locality is. So I am right now in Dehradun. So I searched Dehradun first of all, and then I clicked on view sighting opportunities, and when you click on that, you will get the probable dates and then maximum height and then direction and visibility for how many minutes. This I browsed 2 days back, so it's giving me visibility for October 2 and October 3. You might be wondering that when ISS is crossing so many times in a day, so why this prediction is coming after so many days, October 2 and 3? Because the best time when it is visible is towards early mornings and late night and late evenings. So just before the dawn and just after the dusk, you will be able to see the or spot the ISS very clearly, because at that times it flies past low over the horizon. Other times it would be passing through Earth's shadow, so it won't be visible to you much. Okay, so that is how. Please go out and search for the ISS at the time predicted and the dates predicted in the directions predicted. Right. And another interesting thing on that website which you can follow is you can find out the the current location of ISS also on the globe. So I browsed it on 21st September. So here this yellow path which it has just traversed, this shows you the present that time location of ISS. Okay, so this is the path which is going to be followed now, and it also shows you the previous path, that is 93 minutes before, that is minus 1.5 hours before this yellow one, and the next path which it will follow 1.5 hours ahead. So that is also being shown here. The black shaded regions are night regions. Right, so this way you can explore yourself, you can spot the ISS over your head, and you'll see that it would be crossing very fast. Okay, it would be looking like a very fast moving star. So interesting activity, must try. Now before we go ahead into the modularity, structure, etc., let's have some idea about the history of ISS. So who decided to build it? So there was an American proposal called Space Station Freedom 1984. So the idea was to build up a space station which would be permanently used for scientific experiments purposes, as well as it could provide a habitat for astronauts in a low Earth orbit. So the beginning was in 1998 with the launch of first module Zarya. Okay, and by 2011 we could have 159 components installed on board. So in this picture you can see that it's a modular structure. As I said, it was not sent as a one complete total component as a whole, but it was assembled in the space module by module. And below here, as the cursor moves, you can see there are so many flags of different countries. So roughly, majorly 15 countries have participated in providing the modules, different modules of ISS. But when it comes to the contribution from different countries towards sending people to space, we have several astronauts spanning over several countries in the world. So it exhibits actually a true international sentiment. So you can see here 155 Americans, 52 Russians, 11 Japanese, 8 Canadians, and so forth. So we had astronauts of Indian origin also, not directly from India, but from Indian origin as well. Now, because there are so many countries who have participated, so the classification of module is usually based on the country from which it has been sent. So we have several modules. I'll show some of them, like American module. This is Leonardo module, which is a stowage module. Then we have this beam module, which was a testing expandable habitat technology. This animation here, you can see how expandable habitat technology is. Then we have Tranquility module, which is housing life support system. Then again we have Unity, we have Destiny, we have Harmony. So some of them are used for docking purposes, some for having meals or relaxations or doing research on different activities, some for maintenance, some for extravehicular activities, etc. Okay. One of the most interesting module is the cupola, which is actually a 7-windowed module, which is used for gymming purpose, relaxation purpose, taking pictures, observations, etc. Then we have Russian modules like Prichal module, which is docking module, and Nauka, which is used to store the scientific equipments and for further experimentation. Then Zvezda module, etc. Then other modules from other countries, like this one is from Japan, JAXA Kibo module, which is the largest single ISS module actually, and it's used for conducting research and experiments. Then we have another module, Columbus, from European Space Agency, which is used to do research in fluids, biology, earth sciences, etc. Then we have another Canadian ARM module, which is used for station assembly or maintenance. So in nutshell, you can understand it like the ISS is in totality made up of different modules. It's a modular structure, and these have been contributed by several nations. Now, next, coming to the concept of microgravity, the most fascinating or interesting concepts here. You might have seen such animations or videos. In fact, in the last, this picture is shown one of the most famous popular astronaut, Chris Hadfield, who could also record music inside the space station. But one thing you can see is they all are floating. Things are floating inside the space station. So why that happens? So what is the concept of microgravity? I'll touch upon that. So micro means very small. So microgravity means you are in a condition when gravity seems to be very small. It is not actually small. It has not to be confused with no gravity or zero gravity or very small gravity. No. The gravity effects seem to be very small. In fact, can you tell what would be the gravity experienced at ISS, the space station, at that altitude? How much gravity we experience? It's almost 90% of what we experience on Earth's surface. So gravity is there, but it so happens that the effects of gravity are not experienced much. So, why does that happen? Why do astronauts float? Because they are in the condition of free fall. So, what is free fall? How can you understand that? Suppose I have a ball, okay, and I throw it. So, eventually it will fall down. If I throw it with very high speed, it will take a longer trajectory and then it will fall down like that. So, what happens is the spacecraft is also falling down, but the speed of the spacecraft is such that the curve of its trajectory, the curve of its fall matches with the curve of the earth. Okay, so the spacecraft is falling, but it's falling around the earth. Okay, so the curve of the fall of the space station, that matches with the curve of the earth, and together the spacecraft, its crew, and any objects aboard, these are all falling together around the earth, so they feel almost very less effect of gravity there. You can also consider moon also to be falling around the earth. Okay, it's not falling directly towards the earth, but the speed and the distance is such that the curve of the fall matches with the curve of the earth. So this way, in microgravity, astronauts can float in their spacecraft or outside on a spacewalk. Okay, I hope it is clear to you. Then, okay, now because ISS orbits the Earth every 93 minutes roughly, with a sunrise and a sunset every 46.34 minutes. So there is no time zone. So how do they keep track of the time? They follow coordinated universal time system. Okay, on the left you can see here the sunrise happening, and on the right I'll play the animation, and it's a time lapse video of 24 hours. You can see this, a 24 hours time lapse video where it's very interesting to see the sun almost in the similar place. Okay, so next, coming to the research which is going on in ISS, on the ISS. So there is a multitude of applications: astrobiology, astronomy, physical sciences, material sciences, space weather, space medicine, life sciences, and whatnot. So I'll just illustrate few of them. For example, this slide shows you this exemplifies biological research. So one of the aspect is to study the effect of microgravity on several microorganisms as well as plants. Now, how it would be useful? It would be useful when we have a future long duration missions where carrying too much amount of food will not be a possibility. So growing food will be the key to sustenance. In this animation, this one you can see that they are enjoying the lettuce which they have grown in the space itself. And on the top you can see here DNA sequencing carried out in microgravity. So another aspect which is very interesting is the study of dark matter and antimatter, cosmic dust, cosmic rays, and other astronomical objects and phenomena. You can see here the effects of aurora here. Okay, and then another interesting field is the human life sciences research. So it has been seen that long-term exposures to microgravity may result in bone loss and muscle weakening. In fact, all the astronauts who are in space, they practice regular exercises because there is no effect of gravity which is felt there. So the accumulation of fluid happens. So the muscle strengthening exercises they have to regularly carry out. In fact, there was a very interesting experiment. Here is shown the picture of astronaut Captain Scott Kelly and his twin brother, retired astronaut Captain Mark Kelly. So Scott has remained in the space for around 1 year and Mark has not. So this experiment helped us understand and answer several questions on how a human body can adapt to the extreme environment of space. And apart from all these different research aspects, astronauts who are on board the space station, they regularly carry out educational activities or outreach programs which can inspire young minds to take up this subject further. So uh, now the future of ISS is expected to be till it is expected that the ISS will be continued till 2030, and after that it will be decommissioned. But nevertheless, it will be followed. As of now, it has been visualized that it would be followed by commercial space stations like Axiom Space, Blue Origin, etc., which will succeed the ISS mission. And so let's use the experiences and learnings from International Space Station mission, and we can build up bigger and more advanced space stations. I hope this session have inculcated some interest in your minds to pursue this subject further. You can go through several animations and materials which are available on internet on this subject. And for any further queries and questions, you can email me at manu@iirs.gov.in. Dhanyawad.